Hello. I'd like to speak to you about one of the biggest problems facing our lives and our planet today, and a simple solution to fix it. First, the problem. It's one of the biggest burdens we have to bear. It's incredibly expensive. It consumes around 10% of government budgets and 20% of household spending. It's the fastest growing and soon to be the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. And it also consumes our lives. It turns us into angry zombies for days per year. It shortens our lifespans indirectly through stress and pollution, and it even kills us directly in accidents. I'm referring, of course, to driving. Now, driving has massive benefits, which is why we do it. The question is, why do we choose to do this useful thing so inefficiently, so wastefully, and so burdensomely for ourselves and for our planet? There is a simple solution. And to understand the solution, first you have to understand the cause. So let's talk about science for a second. Three sciences matter: physics, politics, and economics. First, the fundamental laws of physics. A car is a 2-ton hunk of plastic and metal. If you're going to drag 2 tons around with you everywhere you go, it's going to take energy to do this. It just is. Another concept of physics is momentum. Turning things around is hard. And if you add together, you hear a lot about electric cars. If you add together everything needed, the further innovation on the cost side, the changing buyer behavior, the replacing a whole fleet of cars, we're talking 30 or 40 years to get to zero-emission cars. So for the rest of our lifetimes, cars are likely to continue to consume 60% of oil production in the world and continue to emit gases into our planet's atmosphere. So the physics sounds pretty depressing. I used to be a physicist. Let's talk now about politics. Do you think that can cheer us up? Would it surprise you to hear that the answer is no? Politics is the art of being elected. It's the art of being loved. And guess what we all love? We love free stuff. Do you want to talk about free? 30% of the real estate in every city is covered with roads, given away for free. That's a lot of free stuff. And it's free because it's political suicide to ask people to pay for it. Who's more popular in a bar? The person who says, have another free drink? Or the one who says, oh, time to pay the bill? Who's going to get elected? Through an accident in political history, it's even worse than this. We give free for the rich, and we charge the poor. Think about it for a second. We have buses, which is what the poor use for their transportation. And we ask them to pay for the bus every time they get on. And yet we have public roads that we ask all the rich drivers, just give it to them for free. Which should really be free? Should it be public transport or public roads? Which should we charge for? I've started to talk about free here, so I'm starting to get into the subject of economics. Let's talk about the economics of driving. The true cost of driving is around $1 per kilometer. So if you commute from Shanghai Airport down here every day and back, that should cost you around $1,200 a month. Now, if you're Singaporean, you'll tell me there's no way it costs you $1,200 a month. And it doesn't look like it does. That's because we're using a ridiculous economic model for driving right now. Driving is a business of huge upfront costs that you can't control. Your car, your insurance, your taxes. Now just think about the waste caused in buying a car as a model for how you use a car. You want to get something which is big enough to drive your whole family to grandma's on the weekend. And yet, you drive alone to the office every day. So you're getting a 2-ton car and carrying it around with you when a 1-ton car would be perfectly fine for most of your use. So you could actually just change the model so you rent a car when you need it. But the real waste is caused by the fact that those costs are sunk. Imagine calling up your car dealer, your insurance company, or the government. Call up the LTA here and say, I'm going to commute by bus this month. Can I get a rebate on my taxes? They'll laugh at you. Once you own the car, it's cheaper to drive it than to take transit. So of course we drive. What's the solution? Well, now that you know what the cause is, the solution is obvious. It's simple. Take every car-related cost and turn it into a per-kilometer charge. Pay for your car, your insurance, your roads per kilometer. Vary the price up and down based on what roads you drive on, the time of day, your driving behavior. You can get maintenance for your car where you pay per kilometer based on how you're driving it. You can pay for your parking per minute everywhere you park. Now, one obvious question is, can this be done technically? I used to run a Canadian technology company, Skymeter, which has figured out how to do this cheaply, simply, even privately. And there's a lot of other companies working in the space too. The technology was validated for use in Seoul by Cisco in 2008, and then the Seoul mayor changed, and the new mayor said he preferred free to paid. Singapore, of course, already does paid roads, but there's been political challenges there, which stem from the fact that Skymeter is a made-in-Canada technology, not a made-in-Singapore technology, and we're not a multinational. So there's actually 4 other suppliers whose technology was rejected by Cisco being tested right now for use in Singapore. But that's another story. What matters is the technology exists to do this. You actually can charge or save $1 per kilometer, varied up or down, depending on how, when, and where you drive, and even in what kind of car you're driving that. The problem, some of you emotionally may be thinking, I'm still not quite sure about this because I spent a lot of time talking about prices, and that's a mistake we all make. I mean, ERP is electronic road pricing. We're not talking about the benefits. So let's do that for a second. Imagine if traffic just moved, anytime, anywhere. If it took you as long to drive home at 4 in the afternoon as it did in 4 in the morning. Imagine if you always had street parking available. Anytime you wanted to go, there was parking available right in front of the shop that you needed it. Imagine if you could save money by not driving. Save real money, like $1 for every kilometer you didn't drive if you took the bus today. Imagine greenhouse gas emissions from your city dropping by 20% overnight and by 40% over time. Maybe your public transit could be free. And imagine the boost to the economic competitiveness of your whole city and country if transport just worked smoothly. Now, does this sound like a dream? It's actually really easy to get these benefits. We just need to do what we already know how to do. Every time you go to the shops, you know that the shelves will be full and you can buy anything you want. There's no shortages. And you know what causes this? Free markets moving the price up and down to balance supply and demand. Now, why is it that we understand that shortages in the Soviet Union came from applying 5-year central planning to consumer goods, and yet we forget that road space is just another consumer good? And we're applying 5-year central planning to it and giving it away free, and we just can't understand why this is causing shortages. A system like this is designed to cause traffic jams. That's why we have them today. Solution is right in our face. Free market, Adam Smith's magic invisible hand, which balances supply and demand just by getting the price right. So to sum up, driving is an expensive, life-shortening, environmental nightmare. The physics of it is depressing. Dragging 2 tons around with you is going to use a lot of energy, and for the rest of most of our lifetimes, that energy will cause greenhouse gas emissions. We can just be more efficient about how and how much we do it. The politics is depressing too. Free gets you elected, asking to pay gets you voted out. And the economics is the true source of the problem, but it's also the source of the solution. If you flip the economic model around so that you can actually save $1 for every kilometer you don't drive, with some enabling technology and bold politicians, we can actually get a world where driving is a pleasure. My fundamental dream is a simple one. It's a dream that for all of us, that will act soon, so that for all of us, our grandchildren will turn to us and say, Granny, Grandpa, you used to spend hours of your day stuck in traffic jams, lining up to use the roads. What did you do that for?